welcome to Newsroom. I'm Sharmeen Ali. A lot of developments taking place today. Primarily, the Prime Minister Imran Khan is on a visit to Sri Lanka. He has left for Colombo today on a 2-day official visit at the invitation of his Sri Lankan counterpart, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa. So he will be there for 2 days. And he's also accompanied by Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, his advisor on commerce and investment, Abdul Razak Daud, and other special assistant on overseas Pakistanis, Mr. Zulfikar Bukhari. Also in this program, we will be discussing the situation in Afghanistan. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has said that he hopes that the US and the Taliban will continue to abide by the peace accord. Also, we're going to be talking about how India and its fake news outlets all over the world has also been addressed by Pakistan. Again, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has expressed that he hopes that India is going to be held accountable for these actions that have been going on for several years around the world and which have been exposed internationally. Also on our program, we're going to be talking about the vaccination program in Pakistan, which is going to be taking place at the moment. Healthcare workers have been vaccinated, and now towards the beginning of March 2nd, to be exact, over 60-year-olds are going to be starting the AstraZeneca vaccine vaccinations by the government, and we'll be talking about that, the mechanisms for how people are to register and how they can access the vaccine. This is very important. We'll be talking about that on our program today. So to begin with, we're going to start with the situation in Afghanistan and what's going on over there right now, the peace process that came around in a very difficult way right now seems to be getting slightly derailed because there's still tensions, there's still attacks by the Taliban, and the Biden administration has said that they might be reviewing the agreement. Let's have a look at this package and then we'll talk about this with our guest.
Many feared that the Afghan peace progress would quickly unravel as violence in Afghanistan has surged in recent months amid stammering peace talks. Pakistan has been standing firm in its resolve to partner with the international community against the menace of terrorism. For that matter, Shah Mahmood Qureshi hoped that the United States and Taliban would continue to abide by their peace agreement. According to the US-Taliban agreement, a complete US withdrawal is conditional on the Taliban's break with international terrorist organizations. The Taliban also promised US negotiators that it would not attack international forces, large Afghan cities, and some other targets. Reportedly, NATO has 9,600 troops in Afghanistan, including 2,500 Americans training and assisting Afghan forces. The Biden administration has, however, initiated a review of the deal with the Taliban in view of continuing high level of violence. The start of the review has made the peace process uncertain. Meanwhile, United States Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin called for a reduction in violence in Afghanistan and said more progress is needed in Afghan peace negotiations. From this point on, it is primarily the responsibility of the US, the Afghan government, and the Taliban to take the peace process forward and attain a workable solution. This will no doubt be difficult, mainly because violence has not stopped in Afghanistan even as peace talk continues.
Right. So as we've seen that the peace process in Afghanistan at the moment, Pakistan has it in its interest that the peace process continues and goes forward, as naturally it's very important for the people of Afghanistan to have this peace process come into place and the intra-Afghan dialogue to be successful due to the fact that this country has been in conflict for decades now and the people there are weary, as are the Taliban as well as the Afghan citizens who would like to have a peaceful country so that they may prosper and move ahead. We have with us online at the moment Mr. Rahimullah Yousafzai, who is an analyst. We're going to be talking to him about the situation in Afghanistan. Thank you, Rahimullah Saab, for being on our program.
Shukriya, thank you.
What I would like to ask you is this, that the Foreign Minister, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, he has said that he would like the United States and the Taliban to continue to abide by their peace agreement, which seems to be somewhat threatened at the moment. What are your comments about this, sir?
I think this is the right advice because agreements are made to be implemented. Agreements are not made to be violated. This agreement was signed after 18 months of very long and difficult negotiation. And both sides, gave concessions. They signed the agreement in the presence of the envoys of so many countries. Also, the UN was represented. So I think if you don't abide by the agreement, nobody is going to believe you in future. The Americans already, they withdrew from the climate change agreement in Paris. They withdrew from the agreement with Iran on nuclear weapons. And now if they withdraw from this agreement with Taliban, I think, in future, people will say that why do we talk or make agreements with the Americans if they don't implement it? But I think besides that, if the agreement is not implemented, it will mean more fighting, more violence, more bloodshed. And that is what nobody wants, because this war has been going on for 42 years and it must come to an end peacefully and through negotiations.
Right. Sir, also the Biden administration has initiated a review of the peace deal that they secured back in February 2020 due to the fact that there's been another high level of violence as we're seeing attacks by the Taliban, a lot of violence in the country. There are more insurgent groups. Some of the Al-Qaeda contacts have been lost. And also the intra-Afghan dialogue doesn't seem to be getting that far. So what do you say about this review and the reasons that the Biden administration is giving for that?
The review is not something unusual because every new president in the U.S., they have done these kind of reviews. And not only the Afghan agreement with Taliban is being reviewed, but there are so many other issues which are being reviewed and discussed. And the Biden administration would like to know if there was some secret clause to this agreement with Taliban, because I remember Mike Pompeo, the foreign secretary, had said this, that there were some secret clauses also. So I think the new administration has a right to look at the agreement, to review it. But I think that, even if they don't withdraw by 1st of May, as agreed upon in the Doha agreement, eventually I think they will have to withdraw. Eventually they will have again, be required to negotiate with Taliban. I think it will not be wrong if they ask the Taliban to renegotiate the deal, because then maybe the Americans can seek some concessions, and in return, Taliban also may ask for some concessions. That, may happen, but I think that this principle that there is no military solution, this principle that there has to be a politically negotiated solution, this must be accepted. And I think that the Afghans have to reconcile among themselves, whether they are Taliban or people who support the Afghan government or even those who are opposing the Afghan government peacefully, politically in Afghanistan itself. So I think, the intra-Afghan talks are very important. There was a break again for about a month. But yesterday I heard that, again, the two sides met after a break of nearly a month. This is a good omen, and I think they should continue talking even if the negotiations are going to be very tough.
Right, there are also outside influences which are sort of trying to throw this whole process off, and we're all very aware of that. How damaging is that to the peace process, and how is that being addressed?
One thing good about the intra-Afghan negotiation is that these are Afghan-led and Afghan-owned, because only Afghans are negotiating in Doha. There are 41 people, 21 from Taliban side and 20 from the Kabul side. So they actually, agreed initially that no outsider will be present, and they will negotiate among themselves. But if they need some help from outside, for example, if there is a hurdle, if there is stalemate, then I think there are many countries who are willing to help, and they have been helping. Pakistan, Qatar, even the US got involved. So I think that there are these countries which are playing a positive role, but some countries, I think, are playing the role of a spoiler. Among them is India, which, Ajit Doval was in Kabul recently, and, they don't want these talks to succeed because in that case, Taliban would come into the political mainstream, and Taliban do not like the Indians, and Taliban are close to Pakistan. Pakistan will get some credit if there's peace in Afghanistan. So I think India, there are some non-state actors as well who don't want peace, in Afghanistan because then they will not be able to find safe havens in Afghanistan. So I think these, spoilers, state actors, non-state actors, they are the ones, who should be monitored, and if possible, they should be stopped.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on our program. We now have online with us Brigadier Tipu Sultan, who's a senior analyst. Thank you, sir, for joining us on our program.
Okay, ji. Welcome.
Brigadier Sahab, I'd like to ask you now your input about this current Afghanistan peace process. We've seen that the intra-Afghan dialogue and the entire process with the violence and all of that is kind of slowed down, and there's also a review going on by the Biden administration about the peace agreement between the United States and the Taliban. Your views on this, sir?
Yeah, for the Taliban, it does not make any difference now whether the Americans stay there or not. The writing is there on the wall that the NATO forces and the Americans have not achieved their aims in Afghanistan. The question is how the Americans plan to exit Afghanistan now. Although there are spoilers like India and like the intelligence agencies operating over there, wooing the Daesh and TTP and all that stuff. But I think the writing is there on the wall that Afghanistan, unfortunately, might as well be thrown into a turmoil again. Because I see no operationalization of Doha Agreement as such, in which the power can amicably be shared between the ruling government in Afghanistan, in Kabul, and what the Americans want over there. Although the Americans at the change of the post in Washington where Biden took over had some saber rattling against the Taliban from Washington. But the Taliban are sitting tight. They know that the West does not have any further appetite to continue the fight. I think it is irreversible for them. They cannot surge. They cannot send more forces. The only thing they can do is to stay there for some time and keep the Afghan peace process at bay, or the Taliban at bay, so to say. I think the role of Pakistan and China is going to be important, and all these spoilers that we will be defeated. I, for one, would have wanted that there should be a coordination between all factions in Afghanistan, and the peace might as well have returned. But their stakes are so different, so variable, that it does not seem to me that the Afghanistan as a country will see peace anytime sooner, because the intellectual thrust and the type of the government that the Taliban are envisaging as against some sort of a democracy which has been injected by the West into the Afghan society is not going to work together. The difference, however, is that the Afghan security forces, the government security forces are a little better trained, and then they might be able to give some sort of a fight and a delaying battle for the Taliban, but the Taliban are going to prevail, I think. It would be important to see how the Haqqanis of Host coordinate with the Taliban of Kandahar. I think they are together, although there has been some schism, and the Indians have been trying to pay certain factions of Taliban through Dubai in their spoiling effort. The Daesh is there, which is being supported by the Kabul government for the sinister purposes, and so is the TTP playing there. But I think the Taliban have got an overwhelming force should the conflict continue. the Americans would want to exit Afghanistan, and they will work towards that, and the role of Pakistan is going to be important. I think we have seen over the years that the Americans have done issued a lot of statements on Iran, for example, on their nuclear deal. But I think Iranians are not budging an inch, and they're saying that you have to lift the sanctions before you start to negotiate. What I'm trying to imply is that the American tactics of arm twisting and gunboat diplomacy and military adventurism is over now in South Asia, and we will see the Taliban to prevail. I think the next few months will tell us how does it unfold. But I do not see the Taliban agreeing to the American demand or the Indian demand to cede an inch and share the government with the Kabul. On ground, what is going to happen is that across Long Tunnel to Mazar-e-Sharif and to Panjshir Valley, the Taliban will not be as strong as they are in Arghandab Valley, Jalalabad, and Herat, and Ghazni and Kabul. Taliban right now will have a tough task to launch an assault on Kabul. But I think the peace prospects in Afghanistan are not very promising because the parties to the conflict have not been able to reach a workable agreement.
Right. And many believe that if the U.S. troops stay beyond May 1st, that might actually result in renewed conflict with the Taliban. What are your views on that, sir?
You speak a little louder, please, and put the volume up.
Sir, my question to you was that some believe that if the U.S. troops, which are 2,500 right now, and NATO troops are 10,000 in Afghanistan, if they remain beyond May 1st, do you think then there's going to be a risk of renewed conflict with the Taliban, and it might even require the deployment of more United States troops?
Any military strategist who is aware of the situation in Afghanistan and the terrain and the disposition of forces of NATO and Americans vis-a-vis the rest of the Kabul government will tell you that Afghanistan across the turf is ungovernable with the Americans and Ashraf Ghani put together. So these troops that are there in place will not matter much except that they will keep protecting the Ashraf Ghani government in major cities, perhaps. Otherwise, there is going to be no difference whatsoever.
Right. And sir, thank you so much for joining us, Brigadier Tipu Sultan, who is a senior analyst. And now moving on to our next story about India, that Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has also said that India needs to be held responsible for its role in spreading misinformation about Pakistan. This has been ongoing for a couple of years now, and hundreds of fake news outlets have been detected all across the world, which are there to influence the United Nations and the EU. Let's have a look at this report.
Terming India a repressive state shall be an understatement. In this day and age where freedom and liberty are much-touted catchphrases, Kashmir remains the largest concentration camp on earth. With India, religious minorities and those from scheduled castes living in abject fear, the protesting Sikh community, the fading lifeline of India, has been pushed to the wall because of years of anti-farmer policies. The recent exposure of India's 15-year criminal machinations has been dubbed the Indian Chronicles. The reality had brazen state-sponsored campaign of deceit spanning European capitals and United Nations bodies. It saw Indian duping them all through a plethora of bogus accusations and false flag operations maligning Pakistan. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi once again called on international community to be wary of India's sinister design to malign Pakistan and hold it accountable for its reprehensible deeds. The steps taken by Pakistan to emphasize on the international community to take note of India's systematic designs to tarnish Pakistan's image and undermine the international international standing includes a letter to European Union High Representative Josep Borrell, engagement of Pakistan's envoy in Brussels with the members of European Parliament and European institutions to sensitize them about the matter. Moreover, permanent representative to the United Nations in New York, Ambassador Munir Akram, had written to the chair of NGO committee to deregister 10 fake NGOs identified in the Indian Chronicles. Permanent representatives to the United Nations in Geneva had also reached out to the human rights machinery. The relevant authorities in Switzerland and Belgium have been urged to investigate the finances and transparency of the relevant NGOs registered with the jurisdiction. Modi treads a path road with immensely dangerous ramification. It attains an even more nightmarish magnitude, with the world choosing to turn a blind eye to India's proven criminalities. Nonetheless, Pakistan would continue highlighting the matter till India was held accountable for its actions.
So to discuss this effort by India, in which there's an entire operation covering 116 countries and 9 regions, there are 265 coordinated fake local media outlets that exist. We're going to be talking now to Mr. Abdullah Gul, who's the DG MESAC Research Center. Thank you, sir, for joining us on our program.
Thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. So, go forward with this topic about India's disinformation all over the world. We've now heard about it. We know that the EU-based Disinfo Lab, which is based in Brussels, they uncovered this vast network of misinformation being spread by Indians for the purpose of influencing the European Union as well as the United Nations. And since this network has been uncovered, a lot of actions, some of them have been taken down, some of the sites, but then they come up again. Your take on this, sir? How is the best way to tackle this?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, I would like to congratulate Pakistan Television.
Sorry, sir, we need to go to a break. We'll be right back after this break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Newsroom. We were talking about India's misinformation campaign against Pakistan. We have with us online for that Mr. Abdullah Gul, who's a DG MESAC Research Center. Sir, so you were giving your feedback before the break about this misinformation campaign. What should Pakistan's strategy be?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much. Let me congratulate Pakistan media and, of course, the Foreign Office of Pakistan by getting into the matter so deeply that this is now visible to the world, and the whole world knows what India is up to. For past 15 years, they have been trying to malign Pakistan on different accounts by running fake organizations, those organizations which never existed, some social media accounts over in 116 countries, some 550 companies and other fake registered accounts, and then of course some 750 different websites, etc., which were all working against Pakistan's interests. And this is something not only unethical but also unlawful. And this matter has to be, I think, like Mr. Munir and others, the aides of Foreign Office and Mr. Shah Mahmood Qureshi himself, is, I think, has become a frontline soldier on this. And he's taking up the case to European Union and United Nations. And we have been writing to these authorities by, writing to Mr. Joseph Borrell, etc. So this is something which Pakistan is registering a very formal complaint. And we all know that what India wants. Actually, India is so much, I think, for past some decades, India knows that they cannot, they cannot confront Pakistan on different accounts, especially on the when it comes to the military strength. They do not have the guts, or they do not have the military muscle enough powerful to resist Pakistan. So this is something which they want, that Pakistan should be maligned, and Pakistan, the foreign aid, etc., the military aid or the military agreements which can take place with Pakistan, and of course with the closeness to China, India is completely disoriented. They are scared of Pakistan. So very cheap, I would say, tactics they have started using, which was not expected by a country which calls themselves a democratic country, a large country, the country who has some designs, but their malicious thinking is, I think, now being exposed, and our foreign office, our media, and our people, they all know, and those who never knew that what exactly is going on. Now everyone knows from top to bottom that India has some designs. And what are those designs? This means their weaknesses, what the internal weaknesses India is facing, they are trying to put the blame on Pakistan. This is something, it is not acceptable, and of course it is also, I think, should be taken to the court of law. International courts are there, they are working day and night, and Pakistan's case is very strong. So I think this is the time that as a nation we should rise, and we should also try to rope in China, other countries who are very friendly to Pakistan, like Turkey, Indonesia, Malaysia, and some Arab countries who are close to Pakistan. They should put pressure on India, and they should expose this, that what India is up to. How can they go so low on just maligning Pakistan with no nothing serious, or nothing actual, or the facts completely distorted regarding Pakistan. This is, I think, the time that Pakistan should take the matter seriously, and they should also, like the Foreign Office has already told the Indian ambassador in Pakistan about, to stop such evil and malpractices regarding Pakistan. But I think this is the time that we should give them the response
Right. So
that
the
Pakistan wants
Disinfo
more.
Labs investigative report, Indian Chronicles, that also supported the stance of Pakistan. And the Prime Minister's Special Advisor for National Security, Moeed Yusuf, said that this is basically, it's a breach of international law, as you had also mentioned, and that it needs to be brought up at an international level. Shouldn't there be punitive action against India for breaching international law in this case? Can't India, these organizations, and if they have any link to the BJP government or to RSS, shouldn't they be taken to court about this? And shouldn't there be a lawsuit against them in different countries, as well as writing to EU and UN representatives?
Of course, and there is another case, which is like when Narendra Modi accepted that he was part of RSS, and he was part of Mukti Bhani in Bangladesh, and what he wanted over there. So it was an acceptance. A crime has been accepted by none other than Mr. Modi himself in Dhaka. So this matter has to be taken to court as well. But at the same time, like the world should also know that this IT business is getting too headstrong, I think. And this needs to go for some, I think there has to be some kind of principles to be made, some laws to be made. And there are some laws over there already. But at the same time, why India is just, being allowed to do whatever they want to. The atrocities in Kashmir, there are UN reports, but the world is keeping mum. Why? So these are some questions which are being, which are being circulated everywhere. Now, it is a systematic, design, a heinous systematic design by India, that they create this information and they take it to the level where the world probably starts believing that Pakistan is into such activities, which is completely on the other way around, because it is India who is into all the malpractices, into human rights violations in not only just Indian occupied Kashmir, but in rest of India. If you look at the farmers, what they are doing, what they have been doing, they have been killing people over there. The Pakistani Hindus who went there, The 11, they were killed over there. Why? There is no FIR has been registered till date. Why Pakistani High Commission has not been informed about that? This means that India has some serious problems. They have problems with Tibet. They have problems with their own people, with Nagaland, with all the 7 states, which is known as a moist regime. So these all are being targeted by India. The Sikhs, they are being targeted by India. The Citizenship Amendment Act was also an act which is to be, I think, probably the world should take serious notes about it, because now India is crossing the red lines, either with China, with Pakistan, with Bhutan, with Sri Lanka. Nobody is safe in their, in this region. If India is allowed to be given more and more defense power, by recently we have seen that how United States of America has given the consent that okay, 700 200 and 174 F-15 SE planes are to be given to them. What does this mean? So there has to be some kind of a trade embargo, some kind of a defense embargo on India, because they are the one who is ruining the beauty of the world, beauty of the region. This is they want that this region should become a nuclear flashpoint. This will not be allowed by Pakistan, because Pakistan is probably the only responsible country in this region, with China, of course. And India cannot digest, the world cannot digest that Pakistan and China together are rising, not only economically, but militarily as well. So this is something, a serious threat, and Russians coming close to Pakistan through the good offices of China. This is pinching India hard. Their designs to be the policemen of this region, they are not going to be, they will not be able to fulfill the heinous designs of this. They will not be able to fill the colors in their dream. So the only hindrance for India is in this region is Pakistan, because China, they cannot fight China because of so many reasons. But militarily as well, they know that Pakistan is the country who defeated the war on terror, in this region. The menace of terrorism was rooted out by Pakistanis with fistful of resources. This is something incredible what Pakistan has done. So the world should come and rescue Pakistan, not only financially, but also they should protect us from the evil designs of India, because India should not think that Pakistan cannot fight back. Pakistan has shown on couple of accounts, Pakistan has shown that Pakistan has the will, and Pakistan can, and Pakistan will always be able to give a befitting response to Indian aggression. But Pakistan wants peace and stability in this region.
Do you see the Biden administration sort of taking any kind of action about the human rights violations in India, with the farmers' protests going on, as well as in Kashmir? Because we've seen a number of their celebrities tweet about it, and we saw the Vice President's own niece, Meena Harris, get a lot of hate on social media by the Indians for speaking up for the farmers' protests. And this is somebody whose mother was from India herself. So, and the Modi administration was thinking that this would be good for their country, that they had an Indian origin vice president in the US, and now they're also sort of getting a taste of how the whole mechanism in India about just going after somebody who speaks up about them, and sort of just clamping down and closing down the voices that speak up against human rights violations. Do you think that's going to be addressed by the Biden administration anytime soon?
Well, I do not see that it will be addressed very soon, because there are some 19 or 20 people who are in key positions and they are Indian origin, and especially the person who is representing United States of America for Southeast Asia. She is an Indian. So I do not see that some strong policies are coming very soon. And of course, we have seen that how 174 F-15 SE planes are to be given to India in just 10 days. The Biden administration was just enjoying the jubilation time, and this deal was this was said that they will be given. So I think India is not friend for my American friends. I would like to tell them that India was not even friend to Russia. How can they be friend to you? There is a debate going on in India that why we have to be close to Americans. So there is a strong, I think, bifurcation within their society. But at the same time, I would say that if America is not going to look into the matter seriously and take on India by, for human rights violation, I think this
Right,
will,
absolutely.
Americans will suffer too
Sir,
in
thank
this
you. Thank you so
whole
much for
scenario.
joining us, Mr. Abdullah Gul, the DG of MESAC Research Center. And now, finally, we come to the vaccination program that is taking place in Pakistan against COVID-19. Now, this is very essential for Pakistan and its citizens to bring down the cases of coronavirus in this country. At the moment, the Special Assistant to the Prime Minister on Health, Dr. Faisal Sultan, has said that Pakistan is going to receive 2.8 million doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, and that will be around March the 2nd. And the priority will be given to senior citizens over 60 years of age. So we're going to be talking right now to Mr. Javed Siddiqui, who's a senior journalist. Thank you for joining us, Javed Siddiqui Saab.
Thank you.
So the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine in Pakistan, how do we see this taking place going forward? We're expecting 2.8 doses of the vaccine to reach Pakistan by March 2nd, and the priority is going to be given to senior citizens after healthcare workers, right?
Yes. Well, I think the Pakistan government has very effectively started this campaign to vaccinate the citizens of Pakistan. The first priority was basically to vaccinate the healthcare workers and the doctors who are engaged in a fight against COVID-19. And the first phase is over. In the first phase, Pakistan received the Chinese vaccine, which was Pakistan received from China, and Pakistan was the first country to receive the Chinese vaccine. That is a proof enough that China is a great friend of Pakistan, and it is a country which is always there to help Pakistan. Now, in the second phase, as the Prime Minister's special advisor on health, Dr. Faisal Sultan, has said that we are getting 2.5 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine from UK. It is an Oxford produced vaccine, which we are going to receive. And I think this campaign, the second phase, will start in March. And the people, the citizens of Pakistan over 65 years of age will be vaccinated, and that will be an effective campaign. But overall, I think the government of Pakistan has chalked out a very comprehensive plan to vaccinate the citizens, to give them protection against the killer COVID-19 virus. So I believe that Pakistan has made huge efforts. Pakistan has also allowed the private sector to import vaccine and to vaccinate the citizens of Pakistan if there is a need to do that. But at the same time, Pakistan government is taking steps that the vaccine imported by the private sector should have a price which is affordable and accessible.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much, Javed Siddiq, a senior journalist who just joined us to talk about the vaccination rollout program for Pakistan. Let's hope that gets going soon and on time, as Dr. Faisal Sultan has said, and that it's successful in bringing down the cases of coronavirus in Pakistan. That's all for our program for today on Newsroom. Thank you for watching us, and we'll see you next time.